Hey guys, today I wanted to show you how to actually make my tunnel bore system. So let's get started. First thing you're going to need is a couple sticky pistons, a bunch of slime blocks, and some honey blocks. And how I set this up is I have the target set up first. It's just going to be 4 blocks wide by 3 blocks tall. And then anything on the outside of that it's not going to pick up. And it doesn't pick up the corners either. But yeah, I'm not gonna do a whole wall. I'm just gonna do a little bit just to demonstrate, because I have that one over there set up so I don't have to keep resetting the wall. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna come back and you're going to set up a little pathway. So you're going to use this to act as a little runway for the sweeper to come along so it doesn't stick to the ground at all. You could have it all open, doesn't really matter. I just kind of like having it so there isn't a big hole in the ground. Yeah, so then right in front of these 2 blocks, you want to place, want to get a honey block. And you want to place them 1 block off the ground. Then right behind that you need a sticky piston, and that's going to be faced into the honey blocks. After the piston you have 3 slimes, and then you have adjacent 2 slimes, and then you're going to fill in the rest of the space with a redstone lamp. You need a couple observers, and this is going to be faced this direction, so it's going to be watching the redstone lamp here. And then you need some sticky pistons, and then this one's going to be faced like this, so it's going to be pushing away the back, and then this one's going to be faced in the other direction so it pushes forwards. And then you just have 1 more observer on the end. The last thing you want is 1 observer on the top of this, up here, and you want it facing down into this piston. Oops. Yeah, so you want this to stop at a certain place, so you put the obsidian right there so it doesn't move any further back. I don't want this to go any further forward now because it's not right. I'm going to try and get this to go back there. And now I'm going to keep it from going forwards just so I can fix this. This is how you can fix any of your flying machines that break. If I go like that. No. Nope. There we go. Okay. Now, whenever it docks, this is how it's going to be oriented. But if you stop it in the wrong position, then it's going to be all opened up like that, and then it won't run. So you have to make sure that you have a stopper back here in order to keep it from falling apart and from going off into the distance. So this is the basic engine that it works on. It's just the 2 slime blocks and 2 slime blocks with an observer into each of the pistons. And all that does is allows it to go forwards and backwards depending on which of the observers that you trigger. And then at the front of it, we're just adding a slime block to hold these 3 blocks, and then these 3 blocks are the circuit that actually controls when it bounces and picks up a block. I think I can just run this as a test, and I'll show you how it works. So it's going, and then it starts pulling it back, and then it docks right there. So now we have this cluster of rocks on the front of our honey block, and the reason we're using a honey block is so that the slime blocks can come and slide by without pulling anything off of this, except for the blocks that we want to move. Okay, so that's all that you need for the tunnel bore part. The next part we're going to make is the sweeper, and all you need for that is some pistons like that, and then you need some observers that are going to power them. This one actually goes like that, and it's facing the ground, so the power is coming up into this piston, and you have 1 on top, and then this one goes over into the side of this one, so it goes this way like that. And then you need to connect these all up on the back with slime, and you gotta make sure that it's still sitting on the track. So I'm gonna extend this out a bit. And now I'm going to add the engine. So you just put one piston like this, and you can see that they're facing that way and that way. And then the other piston goes like that. And then you just have the two slimes back here, and that holds it all together. Then you need one more observer to power that piston. And then you have the one observer on this side that powers both of those two pistons. Oops. Yeah, that's why you gotta have a stopper. There. Now it can't go any further past this point, and that means it'll always land with this observer looking at this block. So it's pretty simple. It just uses the 2, 3, 4 observers and then the small engine part. And that's what I was trying to say before in the other video. There's a couple ways you can make an engine. You can do this design where you have the pistons right next to each other. You can also do this design where the pistons are adjacent, and that still works. All you need is one observer on each of those. And these are basic engines that you can use, and the different shapes allow you to do different things. Those are the two concepts for the flying machine I used. You can kind of interchange them as long as you make sure that it's not more than 12 blocks that it's pushing. So now we're almost done the mechanical components. I'm just going to add the conveyor belt, and we're going to start by adding a stopper right here. And that'll just stop the machine from traveling any further. I'm going to bring it a bit further out just so it doesn't interfere with anything else. And it doesn't matter how far you go because the flying machines can go for infinite range as long as the chunk's loaded. So I'm going to put the stopper there, and then basically what's going to happen is you're going to have this shape coming into the conveyor belt. So you want to give yourself about 3 blocks room, and then we're going to add a little detector that senses whenever a block is moved, and that's going to tell us when this reaches the end. And then we need a little signal coming in from the other side of here, and we just draw that out. And when this comes and docks, this observer is going to be triggered and it's going to be sent backwards. So I can demonstrate that if I just send it now. So it's coming across and then pushes it and sends it back. And I had a problem before. I was running into an error where this was getting jammed up, but it turns out that I was using the sticky pistons instead of the plain pistons, and it was causing it to pick up blocks and then stop the machine. And you don't want that, so make sure that you're using the normal pistons. And then over here, this is the conveyor belt part. This is where you have to start straightening out the line. So you need pistons in this orientation to be able to push them into a straight line. And then it's going to push the blocks out in this direction. Like that. Now we need to detect the blocks coming in. And the way we're going to do that is just with some fence posts. And then those are going to change into attached fence posts like this every time a block comes by. And then we're going to use some observers to actually read those pulses. Now that you have the detector, we're just going to connect them to the pistons in the back here. So we just need 2 blocks, these 2, I think, like that. You have the one that comes around here, and then one that goes up here. And I think that should work. We can see if that works. I can just do this. Cool. Okay. And now this is going to start making like extending wall that we can mine later. So we just need our 3 of these again, and then observer. Now we need to power this. We can just do that like this, and just go like this, and then like this. Yeah, that should work. Let's just test it. Okay, And then that's just how you make an elbow in a conveyor belt. I'm going to move on to the wiring under the ground. Okay, so first what we're going to do is right in front of these two, we want to put two observers facing up. And then these are going to detect whenever one of these blocks slides over. The problem with this orientation is that it can't detect when only the first two blocks are picked up, and that stops it from cycling the system. So you'll have to break those blocks manually. So now we're starting with these two, and then we need two sticky pistons. And then we're gonna break out these. And you need one there, and then one there, and there. So yeah, then what you're gonna do when you're under the ground is you're gonna just dig out a square hole until you can see all the components above you. And this is going to be the area where we have the main mover circuit. So right under here we need an observer. It has to be facing down. And then what that's going to do is when a signal comes by under here, it's just going to it's going to activate this piston. And we're going to do that on both sides here too. I'm just going to take some redstone and connect those. And now we want to take the signal from the front of these two, and we're going to go like that, and then send it into a piston extender. I'll just break up some of this track a little bit, just so it's easier to see from above, because basically it's not too complicated what's happening under here. Okay, that's a bit easier. Okay, so now what we're going to do is just get a redstone block, and every time this goes forward it's going to trigger the line, and every time it goes back it's going to turn it off. And the reason that's good is because when the piston pulls a block over top of this, it ticks once, and then it'll send it out, and then when it pulls it off again it ticks another time, and then it'll pull it back in. So it's always going to be going twice, and I just want to turn that into one single signal. So then from here we need to go 3 repeaters, and then 2 of them are going to have a delay of 4. I think we might need one more. Let me see. Yeah, so all 3 need to be to 4 ticks, and that's just so there's enough delay that this can reach the end, and these won't be pulling the blocks too soon or moving anything that doesn't need to be. After that, we have this signal, and it needs to split into 2. So I'm going to have it power this block and then come across here and just go under each of these. Needs to come out one more block. Yeah, and then this line comes around the back. And you just need to be 1 block away, so you can position it like this. And that'll just power this block, which will power the piston. That's it for behind here. You don't need that. This is all extra. Okay, and then after that, you have the end of this line that you need to bring to the end of the sweeper. So we're just going to make a little tunnel, and that's going to go to the face of this observer. So I'm going to stop this from moving again, and then I'm just going to put the redstone trail behind here. And then I'm going to add a little repeater just so it can make it all the way. Then we just need the 3 more repeaters at 4 ticks. I'm not sure if this one's necessary, but I'm just going to leave it. And then I'm going to cover this up just so we don't have to see that anymore. Now we have the signal coming over here, and we need another delay that comes off of the end of this. Okay, this is just so there's a bit of a delay after these ones fire, and then it's going to go into this repeater. So then one tick later, it's going to activate these two observers, and then that's going to pull the block down. And then before this line turns off and retracts these pistons, it's already retracted. So it retracts the pistons out of the way of the sweeper. Yeah, and now we're just going to connect these up like that. Okay, so that's really it for the inside of this wiring. It's really simple. You can see it's almost an empty room under here with a couple lines of redstone. So now that we have that, I'll just go over how this will cycle. So first what's going to happen is we need a signal sent here, and then the whole bore is going to go place the picker upper thing into the wall, and then it's going to pick up its whole load of blocks, and then it's going to dock again. And then after it docks, it's going to be triggering this on its way in, which will delay the pulse and wait for the thing to fully reach the back and to stop moving. And then it's gonna come here and push these two pistons out into the runway here. And then it's gonna lift up and pull these blocks down to there. Okay, so it's going. It picks up all the blocks it's gonna take, and then it triggers that. The pulse comes around. And yeah, I don't know what just happened. Nothing happened. That's because this pulse didn't go on for long enough. Okay, so it's triggered twice, and none of these are activating for long enough. Let's see what happens again. Okay, so maybe less of a delay. There we go. Okay, so I put too much of a delay on this repeater, and that makes these fire too late, and that means that it can't pick up the block. And then that just makes it so the sweeper can come along and then pick up all of the blocks and push them into the conveyor. And then after that happens, the conveyor will automatically send back the sweeper, and then the whole system's reset. So after you add your line out the back, I just put a block in the front so it wouldn't activate the system. Then you can pull this line around, and whenever you want the process to start again, you activate this line. In my new design over here, what I added is just place a block here, and it kind of slides over just like the observer here. But I'm using a observer and a monostable circuit to be able to read whenever this docks, and only when it docks. So what happens is every time this moves, when it starts to move and when it docks again, it's going to trigger this line. So that means it's going to trigger it twice. And the way we're going to fix that is by adding a little monostable circuit that attaches to a falling edge circuit. And the way that works is we just need the one block going into a redstone, and then that's going to power this piston. And then we also need an observer facing this direction, and we're going to take a repeater, and it's going to feed into the repeater. So what happens is when this extends, it's going to power the piston and lift up the observer, which will update it at the same time. But when it's lifting up, pulse won't fire. When it's going down, it will fire a pulse. And we can use that to differentiate when it's launching and when it's docking again. So I can show you that by just powering this. I'll just do this. There's no flash. Now there's a flash. And it means that only when there is a block here, when it docks, is it gonna pulse this. And then we can use this signal to send over to the beginning of the cycle. And then it's all gonna start again. Okay, I'm gonna place the floor back and now test it. Okay, so now it's all covered up again, and I'm gonna send this on its way. Now it's going, it's picking up the blocks. Now it's coming back, and it triggered that. And then it pulls down the blocks and sends this going. Now the blocks go into the conveyor system, and it comes back. Now when it docks, it's going to re-trigger this, and it sends it on its way again. I can't let this go for another round, or it's just going to break through and then destroy itself. But it will finish the cycle. There. So that's it for the system. It's looking a lot more compact than before, and I kind of like that. So I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching. Bye.